newspaper. Yeah, to all my friends. Anyway.
Oh, it's colorful.
Well, let me ask you about any special categories for the Hall of Fame. I know it's athletes, but is there a special category maybe that people who are non-athletes could be inducted?
Yeah, so
Can you just talk about that for a minute?
About, I think a good example is Doc Mastrangelo, who gave so much to the community, and the team physician, and he did it, for gratis, and it was just, meant so much to the students and athletes coming through. And this year, we were recognizing Sal Ciccarelli. He was the founding, he was a charter member of the Hall of Fame. The Hall owes him a debt. He served the community for 40 years, and he was an outstanding
But he was an athlete too,
yes, I know. He played for Vic Palladino. Yeah. He was an undersized, tough running back.
He was, I do remember that. So there are special categories. Yeah. But generally speaking, most of the folks that are inducted are athletes, for the most part, the greater part, right?
Yeah. They are the best we can find of that.
Bob, what made you go to every other year? Because I remember when this started, you had the ceremony every year, inductees every year, right? Now you've decided every other year. What prompted that?
Well, part of the thinking is that we want to keep our standards as high as we can. We, and it's kind of, when you talk to those first bunch of years, you're picking off the creme de la creme from these years, and there's certainly a lot of, for example, Jack Shaw shooting. I know you know.
I know Jack. I know his brother,
and he was an outstanding three-sport athlete. He just happened to be in a decade where you shake a tree and terrific athletes.
Thousands of them fell out.
So he has kind of weight.
Sure.
And so we want to keep our standards as high as we can. Well, the players coming up now, we have a 10-year moratorium. You have to have graduated.
So years. That's something.
For example, probably one of the best athletes ever to come out of Watertown High School in the past 10 years, in my opinion, Tom Dicker.
Yeah, Tommy Dicker was an excellent football player.
He would no doubt be a first round pick just right off the top. There would be very little discussion.
But he needs to wait that period of time.
He has to wait one more year because he just.
But that's okay.
Yeah. So they have their day. Yeah. So that the people coming in, field hockey girls, well, my goodness.
Well, you could have hundreds of those kids. There's so many good ones. In fact, you're inducting one this year, aren't you?
Carrie Lassard. She was an All-American hockey player, field hockey player. Named Jack Shashun. Bob O'Neill, class of '43. He was an all-scholastic when there was only one all-scholastic team from each paper. He was.
Bob, for example, O'Neill, who comes up with his name? Just somebody pops up with
a
name?
Well, that committee group, there's 4 people
they
in
investigate and
they go
research.
Through the archives, and they really do it.
Yeah, I can believe it.
They just put a lot of time, and then they come up with the names and the resumes. And sometimes people, family members, will put in a resume, and you look at it, and you do fact check to some extent.
So can someone, and we don't want the public, I suppose, to do, but can somebody just call your committee and say, consider this person, and would you listen to that? And then investigate?
Of course you would. I mean, but it does need some sort of documentation.
Oh yeah, what documentation?
And the farther you go back, the more you have to rely on oral history.
Well, because some documentation isn't there. You get anecdotal stuff.
And a lot of these anecdotal recommendations can be corroborated.
Some can't because, you catch a fish 25 years ago was this big. Well, today you talk about it's like a shark. So, things change.
And we're all aware of that. But, when you put together a large group of people, it's like a jury system. Every year I'm just so proud of the group that I'm working with because they do diligence. And at the end of the evening, it always seems that the candidates that rise, when I walk out that door at the final meeting, I'm always very comfortable.
Yeah. I can attest to that. My first meeting, I saw the material these guys had on a particular player. It's just incredible. And I said, well, this is what I'm in for here. It's going to be tough.
No, there's no doubt that the selection committee and Bob does a great job. They all do a great job. Does the selection committee change over time, or do you keep more or less the same folks?
For example, Bartley, Dick Bartley, he's the track commissioner now, and he knew Watertown track history like nobody. He was just fabulous. Well, he served the committee, and then he retired, and he moved to the Cape, and he just can't attend meetings. So he'll go, and there'll be somebody that, from his demographics, hopefully that will take his place. And every year you never know what. This year seemed to be top heavy in football players.
So do you get like a track guy to sit on the committee, a football guy, or is like?
It's people from different decades.
Yeah.
It's a decade. For example, if we were talking about the 50s, you would probably know who the track guys are.
Yeah.
You would know the baseball players.
Well,
you knew him right away when you walked in.
I'm a little young for that, but
as I said,
I could guess.
It's very obvious, Dick.
Thank you very much, Phil. I could guess at some names, so I suppose. Speaking of that, now both of you folks grew up in East Watertown, yes?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And tell me some memories of East Watertown as you went through school and played football, basketball. Did you play in the junior highs at that time? Junior high schools have teams? I think they did, right?
Yes, they did.
Like
they didn't
junior
have
high?
football. They had baseball and basketball.
Right?
But you know what I remember mostly, and I talked to my friends about this, and maybe the East Junior High School field was a center for us.
Yeah.
And I remember in the summertime, leaving my house in the morning, I lived in Spruce Street, running down, playing baseball with the guys, running back, getting lunch, running back down to the field, and we just spent all of our hours there.
Sure.
And I think that's how we developed into loving sports. We played football in the fall, and we did it all. So.
Something to do to keep busy. And you guys are good. Yeah, I have to interrupt and say this guy was a great tackle for Watertown and Northeastern. And this guy, this Stackpole guy, probably the best catcher in the history of Watertown.
I would agree with that.
That's quite a compliment.
Basketball player, one of the top, and a great quarterback. So we have two folks here who are just outstanding athletes, and I'm sure the folks watching you know who they are, and if you don't, I'm just telling you who they are.
Okay.
Well, Phil Stackpole, he was truly a great athlete. He made triple.
Well, you're not a slouch.
Well,
you did a good job yourself.
Thank you.
You're a great tackle at Northeastern.
Phil got to a AAA with the Red Sox organization.
Yep.
He was a full scholarship basketball player to BU, and then a football scholarship to Brandeis.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, he was a remarkable athlete.
Remarkable.
But I think the point that he's making, and I think all three of us will concur, growing up, the fields were full.
Always.
I mean, you always have to plot where you're going to be.
Yeah.
Today, if it's not organized, it doesn't happen. Occasionally, that's too broad a statement, but not like.
But I think that's sad, though, Bob and Phil. You know that if it's not organized and the kid doesn't have a uniform and there's not 65 coaches, well, they don't play. We used to tape a baseball.
Exactly.
When the cover came off, tape it, white tape, black tape, and play some more.
Exactly.
And keep going. But today, I guess. We want organization. Kids don't have the time or the inkling to get out there and just, have fun.
I know.
Well, I think when you make your own rules, for example, and you enforce your own rules, I think there's something social.
Oh, absolutely. Except when you took your bat and you went home, you had the only bat.
That's part of the social.
If it was one bat and you had it, and you got angry,
dynamics.
you left with your bat, then that wasn't so good. But
that's a good point. There was never any arguments. Everybody said, you're out, and you said, okay, I'm out.
Yeah, exactly.
There was never an argument.
It was like a little society, and I think there are learning experiences that go with kind of regulating yourselves and organizing yourselves and knowing balances from teams.
You're absolutely right, Bob. And at the time, you didn't think of that. You just did it.
Yeah.
And today, sometimes, I hate to talk like this, but we have parents coming out of the stands who want to fight with officials and fight with kids, fight with this. Not a lot, but you still do it. I don't remember it years ago. I don't remember parents and kids wanting to challenge officials a lot. They might do it themselves, themselves, but athletics has changed a little bit in our time, in this present day. And
I coached Little League for 13 years out of self-defense, basically, because I really didn't want my kids to go through, and it can get very ugly sometimes, and without any reason. I mean, it's just so.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm sure you have.
I have. Bob, give us again. You gave us some of the names of the inductees. Let's go. Jack Shashudian, you said the 49 football team.
He was Jack Shashudian was a class in 1950. He was a three-sport athlete.
Okay.
Actually, a four-sport athlete. They drafted him into running track
team,
too.
right.
So. Bob O'Neill.
Bob O'Neill, you mentioned.
He was class of 43.
Let's get them all in.
Yeah.
If you remember.
Yep, I'll remember. Then comes John Marini.
John Marini,
class
there
of
you
1954.
Tell the
He was
folks
the
about
co-captain. He and Coco Gregorian were the co-captains of the 1953 state championship team. John was, I was a year ahead of John, and the whole line from tackle to tackle graduated. So that was where the depth was.
Yeah, yes.
John single-handedly helped drive that, brought the state championship back to Watertown High School. Interesting story, John went on and he went right into the construction business. And I read a few weeks ago, I'm sure I hope you read it too, that John probably is the biggest land developer in Canton, and everybody said,
amazing stuff.
Wonderful guy.
I know. Yeah, I do know.
Then Sal Ciccarelli, who was given the special for his contribution. Joe Antonellis, he was
Joe Antonellis.
If I remember, my memory is a little hazy, but I think he went to Harvard.
Was he a tackle?
He was a lineman.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think it was Harvard he went to, and he was again a outstanding tackle lineman. Kelly Lassard, All-American, one of the great.
I had her in class when I was here at Watertown High.
Yeah,
she was in one of my classes. Yeah.
She went on to the University of Iowa.
That's right.
Yeah. And then, of course, the 49 football team and the 87 field hockey team, and you know, our MC is Bob Norton, who's the principal of Woburn High School, and you can say something about his abilities as a
hockey announcer. Excellent hockey announcer.
He's an excellent
for college games.
Speaker in any case. You couldn't have a better MC for the Hall of Fame than Bob Norton.
Exactly.
Plus his institutional memory.
I know it.
I thought I had.
He remembers everything, got everything.
Absolutely everything.
Right.
Yeah. Well, guys, you know, we could talk another hour about this, but time is almost up. So, Bob, why don't you remind the folks again the date and where it's going to be held and so on, so they can just refresh their memories about the Hall of Fame.
Well, Richard, I want to thank you for giving myself and Phil the opportunity.
Well, I was going to thank you after you did that. So.
For being able to, because that's why
my pleasure. My pleasure.
Is to
and I as well.
Remind the folks that on May 12th, the second Friday in May at the Hellenic Cultural Center here in Watertown, we will be having our 15th Hall of Fame induction banquet. The tickets are $30, and the cocktail hour starts at 6 o'clock, and dinner will start at 7:30. It is a grand reunion. You will see people that you haven't seen, people flying in. This time of year, I get telephone calls from all over the country, you know, kind of making sure that they have the times and dates right. So it's like a high school reunion, only the common denominator is, I guess, athletics.
Well, let me reemphasize that to everybody out there. If you haven't been to a Hall of Fame dinner, you need to come to one of these. It's a great time. It's a reunion of sorts, as Bob mentioned. You see people you may not have seen for years and years, so it's a great time. Come on out. I want to thank Bob, you and Phil, for coming here today, my two idols. I'm glad you're with us, and we want to thank the folks out there for watching Watertown Sports Talk, and we hope to see you next time.
Usually you get a lot of conversation at this time. Usually you